Okay, I want you to picture a macaw. Just close your eyes if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
What's the very first image that pops into your head?
Oh, I think I can guess. You're almost certainly picturing a pirate's shoulder, right?
Absolutely.
A loud, colorful bird screaming, "Polly wants a cracker!"
Yeah,
Or maybe it's, cracking a joke in a cartoon.
exactly. We have this pop culture caricature of the macaw. It's the jester of the rainforest, the sidekick. But I've been going through this stack of research we pulled for this deep dive, and today we are going to completely dismantle that image.
We really are.
Because when you actually look at the data, the biology, the mechanics, the deep history, these birds aren't jesters.
Not at all. They are specialist engineers. They are evolutionary marvels that combine the emotional intelligence of a primate
Yeah.
with a face that functions like a hydraulic bolt cutter.
That is the vibe we are going for today. We are doing a deep dive into the tribe Arini.
Which is the scientific classification for neotropical parrots.
Right, and this includes everything from the massive hyacinth macaw all the way down to the tiny Hans macaw.
And our mission today is really to look past the pretty plumage. We want to understand how a creature can possess such raw biomechanical power. I mean, we're talking scary strength, while at the same time being one of the most culturally complex and emotionally vulnerable animals on the planet.
So let's unpack this. And I want to start with the hardware. Because when you read the specs on a macaw's skull, it sounds more like a piece of heavy industrial machinery than a bird.
It really does. And it all starts with a feature that separates them from us, and honestly, from most other vertebrates. It's called the prokinetic skull.
I looked this up and it's just fascinating. So think about your own jaw, your upper jaw, your maxilla. It's fused to your skull. It's a solid block.
Doesn't move.
It doesn't move. Only your bottom jaw moves up and down.
Right. If you want a bigger bite, you have to drop your chin. But in macaws, the upper beak isn't fused. It's connected to the cranium by this flexible joint, a craniofacial hinge.
So they can move both the top and the bottom mandibles independently.
Precisely. And this gives them incredible leverage. It creates multiple points of articulation.
And that leverage is necessary because of what they eat. We aren't talking about, soft berries or worms here.
Not even close. No. And the research specifically highlights the hyacinth macaw here.
The big blue one, right. The largest flying parrot in the world.
That's the one. And the bite force stats on this bird are, well, they're honestly terrifying.
They really are.
A hyacinth macaw can generate approximately 539 newtons of force.
Which, okay, that feels a bit abstract, so let's translate that. In terms of pressure, that translates to somewhere between 600 and 1,200 pounds per square inch, PSI.
1,200 PSI. Just let that sink in.
I was looking at the comparison chart in our notes because I needed a reference point.
Yeah.
A large dog, like a Rottweiler, a dog bred for guard duty, has a bite force of around 235 PSI.
Right.
And a tiger shark, a literal shark, is around 325 PSI.
Right.
So this bird has a bite significantly harder than a shark. Is that what we're saying?
It does. But here is the critical context because, people might hear that and think predator.
Right, a predator.
The shark uses its bite to tear flesh. It needs those sharp edges to shear. The macaw isn't using this for fighting. It's strictly an industrial application.
It's a nutcracker.
The ultimate nutcracker. They've evolved to crack palm nuts, specifically the nuts of the acrocomia and atelia palms. These things are basically biological stones.
So hard that literally no other animal in the ecosystem can access the kernel inside.
Exactly. It's an exclusive food source, an evolutionary monopoly. If you can build a face strong enough to crack the safe, you get all the gold inside.
Then you have zero competition. But, having the power is one thing. Controlling it is another.
Right.
If you apply 1,200 PSI to a round, slippery nut, it's just going to shoot out of your mouth like a bullet.
It would.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the tongue. This was the part of the anatomy that surprised me the most. I always just assumed a bird tongue was just a little fleshy worm thing.
Me too.
But the macaw tongue is an incredibly complex tool. It actually contains a series of bones called the hyoid apparatus.
A skeleton in its tongue.
A skeleton in its tongue, yes. And on the tip, on the underside, there's this distinct feature called a lingual nail. It's a hard, keratinized pad. It acts like a little stopper or a brake.
So wait, let me picture this. The bird has a smooth, round, rock-hard nut in its beak.
Mm-hmm.
It uses that bone-filled tongue to position the nut, and the lingual nail locks it against the blade of the beak so it doesn't slip.
Exactly. It's like a jeweler holding a gem in a vise.
Mm.
It's a level of dexterity that is incredibly rare.
And they use the beak for locomotion, too. I've seen them do this. It acts as the third leg,
It does. They hook onto a branch.
which has to be crucial for their habitat.
Oh, absolutely. It allows them to distribute their weight on these precarious, spindly branches way up in the high canopy, where heavier predators, like, say, monkeys or large cats, simply can't follow. They can reach the fruit at the very tips.
So they're safe and they're well fed. Okay, so moving down the body, we have to talk about the feet. Because if the beak is the vice, the feet are the hands.
And we call this zygodactylism. It's a specific toe arrangement.
Okay.
So instead of 3 toes forward and 1 back like a chicken or a sparrow, macaws have an X shape. 2 toes point forward, 2 point backward.
Which gives them that incredible grip. But here's where it gets really fascinating to me. The research mentions handedness, or I guess footedness.
Yes, lateralization. This is a huge topic in cognitive science. Just like most humans are right-handed, research on scarlet macaws shows they are predominantly left-footed.
Left-footed. So if you give a macaw a piece of fruit, it's probably going to grab it with its left foot.
Most likely, yes. And this tells us something pretty profound about their brains.
How so?
Well, in vertebrates, the right hemisphere of the brain controls the left side of the body. And that right hemisphere is often associated with complex spatial processing and object manipulation.
So when that scarlet macaw is balancing on its right leg, holding a seed in its left foot, and rotating it with that bone-filled tongue to find the seam,
It's engaging a highly specialized neural network for tool use. It's not just eating. It's a complex motor task that absolutely rivals what primates do with their hands. It applies a brain wired for problem solving.
and that brain power segues perfectly into how they communicate. Because again, the stereotype is just squawking, just loud noise.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, they are loud. Deafeningly so.
Oh, right. But that's for long-range contact. The sources point out that a huge amount of their communication is visual and silent.
It is. If you look at a blue and yellow macaw, they have that classic white patch of skin on their face. To a casual observer, it just looks like bare skin.
But if you look closer,
You see these tiny lines of black feathers.
and those lines are unique, right? Like a barcode.
Exactly. They are facial fingerprints. Computer analysis has shown that the pattern of those feathers is unique to every single bird. And not just unique between birds. The left side of a bird's face is different from the right side.
So they're recognizing each other by these facial maps, but the skin itself does something wild.
It blushes.
It blushes.
It does. The facial skin is highly vascularized. When a macaw gets excited or has a positive affect, which is just a scientific way of saying they are happy or engaged, blood rushes to that skin. It turns pink or red.
See, humans blush when we're embarrassed. It's usually a negative or awkward signal for us.
For them, it's a billboard for, I like this, or I'm excited to see you. It's a real-time emotional display. And it's paired with another signal called eye pinning.
Oh, I've seen this in videos. The pupil goes tiny, then huge, then tiny again. It looks like a camera shutter malfunctioning.
That's pinning. It's a sign of high arousal. Now, this is where you have to read the context. It could be curiosity, it could be excitement, or it could be a warning.
A warning that you are about to get bitten by that 1200 PSI beak.
Exactly. It's their way of broadcasting intent. They are saying, I am in a high-energy state right now. Pay attention. This is really important because fighting is expensive. If you get injured in the wild, you die.
So having a clear, silent signaling system to say back off or come closer is a survival mechanism.
It's critical.
It's amazing to think about these birds having such a readable emotional language. And that leads us to the deeper cognitive stuff. The sources mention a vocal learning link. We know parrots can mimic speech. We usually think of it as a party trick, but the research says it's much more than that.
This is a crucial point. There was a landmark study connecting vocal mimicry to problem solving. It turns out the neural pathways you need to hear a sound, process it, and reproduce it, which is a very complex feedback loop.
Right.
Those pathways overlap with the ones used for physical puzzle solving.
So the better a bird is at learning new sounds, the better it is at, say, unlocking a latch or finding hidden food.
Exactly. It's a cognitive complex. They didn't evolve to talk to humans. They evolved to be adaptable. And that adaptability extends to their social lives. Macaws are famously monogamous.
The lovebirds of the parrot world.
They really are. They form pair bonds that can last for decades.
Yeah.
They spend almost 100% of their time together. They fly together, they eat together, they groom each other. And that grooming, it's called allopreening, releases oxytocin.
The same love hormone that humies have.
The very same. It reinforces the bond. And the social complexity goes even deeper. Wild macaws have been observed giving specific vocal labels to their chicks.
They name their babies.
Effectively, yes. They have signature calls for their offspring, and the entire flock learns to recognize those specific names. It suggests a level of societal structure that is incredibly rare outside of humans and cetaceans.
And they have to be smart, right? Because they live so long. I was shocked by the longevity stats.
60 to 80 years is common. Some reach 100. And there is a direct correlation between relative brain size and lifespan.
Ah,
If you live for 80 years in a rainforest, you are going to face droughts, fires, new predators, changing food sources. You can't survive that long on instinct alone. You have to be able to learn and solve novel problems.
speaking of solving problems, let's talk about the clay licks. This is one of those National Geographic moments, thousands of colorful macaws descending on a riverbank to eat dirt.
Geophagy. It's a spectacular phenomenon.
Now, for a long time, the theory was that they were eating clay to detoxify their stomachs, right? Because they eat these unripe, toxic seeds.
That was the leading theory for decades.
Right.
The idea was that the clay binds to toxins, essentially acting like a charcoal filter in their gut. But the data from the Western Amazon tells a very different story. It points to the sodium hypothesis.
Walk us through that because the geography here is really important.
It's everything. So the Western Amazon is huge, and it's thousands of kilometers away from the ocean. The trade winds blow moisture across the continent, but by the time the rain falls there, it's stripped of sea salt.
So the entire ecosystem is sodium starved.
Extremely. The plants they eat have almost zero salt. But the clay at these specific river bends. It has 40 times more sodium than their diet.
40 times. Wow. And the timing of when they visit seems to prove this wasn't just about tummy aches.
Exactly. If it was about detoxifying food, they would go every time they ate. But they don't. Visitation peaks during the breeding season.
Ah, when the females are laying eggs and feeding chicks.
Right. Building a skeleton and a nervous system for a chick requires sodium. They aren't taking Pepto-Bismol, they are taking prenatal vitamins. They are mining the earth for the minerals they need to build new life.
That is such a cool shift in perspective. It's nutritional management, not just medicinal. Now, I want to pivot to the human connection. Because humans and macaws have been tangled up for a long, long time.
For millennia.
The source mentions Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, which is not the rainforest, it's high desert.
It is. But archaeologists found scarlet macaw skeletons there, buried in the great houses dating back to the 9th century.
Wow.
These birds were transported over 1,800 kilometers from the tropical lowlands of Mexico.
That's an incredible journey to make on foot. Imagine walking 1,800 kilometers across deserts and mountains carrying a bird that can bite your finger off.
It just shows how valuable they were. They were luxury items for the elite. They were associated with the sun and rain gods. If you had a macaw, you had power. You had a direct line to the divine.
But the indigenous tribes in the Amazon didn't just trade them, they hacked them. This part blew my mind. Tapirigem.
This is fascinating. It's essentially ancient bioengineering.
Explain how this works because it sounds like alchemy.
So, indigenous tribes developed a technique where they would pluck a feather from a living bird. Then they would treat the bare skin with a specific mixture. Sometimes it was secretions from a particular frog, sometimes fish fat, sometimes herbal dyes.
What did that do to the bird?
It changed the physiology of the follicle. It interrupted the pigment production.
Yeah.
So when the feather grew back, it wouldn't be green or blue anymore. It would come back bright yellow or fiery orange.
They were physiologically modifying the bird's appearance to create specific patterns for ritual headdresses.
It's artistic genetics. It shows a profound understanding of biology. They weren't just painting the feathers, they were reprogramming the bird's body to produce a new color. It implies centuries of observation and experimentation.
Which brings us to today. Because now we are manipulating nature to try and save these birds. We have to talk about the Spix's macaw.
The little blue macaw.
Ah.
The very species that inspired the movie Rio.
And the sad reality is that the Spix's macaw went extinct in the wild in 2019, just gone.
But, and there's a huge but, there was a captive population. And in 2022, a massive reintroduction project started in Brazil. But they ran into a problem immediately. The captive birds didn't know how to be wild.
They had the genetics, but they didn't have the behavior. They didn't know where the food was or how to fly away from a hawk.
Right. Survival is a learned skill. In the wild, parents teach the chicks. These birds were, in a sense, orphans, so the scientists used a mentor strategy.
A mentor strategy.
They released the Spix's macaws alongside a different species, wild blue-winged
So
macaws.
they gave them foster siblings.
Essentially, the blue-winged macaws acted as tutors. The Spix's macaws followed them, watched what they ate, watched where they roosted, listened to their alarm calls. They roosted, listened to their alarm calls. They basically downloaded the software for survival from a completely different species.
And did it work?
It did.
Yeah.
The survival rate in year one was nearly 60%, which is remarkably high for captive releases. And in 2023, they had the first successful wild nesting.
That is incredible. It really highlights that being a macaw isn't just about having the DNA. It's about the culture. It's about the knowledge passed down from the flock.
That's the key takeaway for me. When we lose a species, we aren't just losing a genetic code, we are losing a library of knowledge. How to find the sodium, how to crack the nut, how to avoid the eagle. The Spix's project proves that we can rebuild the population, but we also have to rebuild the culture.
It's a hopeful note, but it reminds us how fragile this all is.
It is. These birds are a living paradox.
How so?
Well, think about everything we've discussed. Physically, they are tanks. 1,200 psi bite force, can live for a century. But ecologically, they are incredibly sensitive. They need specific trees to nest. They need specific clay licks for sodium. They need a stable flock to learn from.
They are powerful specialists in a world that is changing too fast for specialists.
Exactly. And that's why conservation is so difficult. You can't just save the bird. You have to save the stage they perform on, the trees, the clay, the silence of the forest.
So the next time you see a picture of a macaw, or maybe you're lucky enough to see one at a zoo.
Don't just see a mimic.
Right. Don't look for the pirate. Look at the face. Look for the blushing. Look at the feet.
And remember, you are looking at a flying primate with a face designed to crush rocks, who is probably figuring out exactly who you are while you're staring at it.
I love that. A flying primate with a bolt cutter face, that is going to stick with me.
It's a humbling thought.
It really is. That wraps up our deep dive into the macaw. We hope you learned something new about our noisy, colorful, and surprisingly complex friends.
And here's a final thought to chew on. We talked about how they have unique facial fingerprints. We use facial recognition technology to unlock our phones. It makes you wonder, in a flock of 100 macaws, do they process those facial patterns instantly, the way our phones do? Are they running a biometric database in those brains every time they look at each other?
Something to think about. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.